So now we're in section 2. We're going to discuss the beliefs of Islam, the 5 pillars of Islam, and Islamic law. During the life of Muhammad, his followers memorized his messages, works, and deeds. So when he died, they wrote them down in the Quran, and it was believed to be the exact words as God told Muhammad. Here's an image of a Quran. The central teaching of the Quran is that there is only one God, Allah, and the people must obey the commands of Allah, which was given to them through Muhammad. Muslims believe there's a paradise for people who obey with fine food and drink. Let's just say drink. But the people that do not will be punished. It's pretty typical of a lot of monotheistic beliefs that there's a paradise one day for people who do good things and a hell or a bad place for people who do bad things. They also believe that you need to follow the commands of God, which is what the Christians and the Jews believe as well. So there's a lot of similarities between these. There's also some major differences. The Quran describes the acts of worship, guidelines for moral behavior, and rules for social life. Muslims must wash themselves before praying so they'll be pure. They're not allowed to eat pork or drink alcohol. These are just some of the dietary restrictions of the Muslims. They need to be made themselves clean before praying. They don't need to eat things that will defile them, like alcohol or pork. They also encourage Muslims to free slaves if they owned any. The idea of owning slaves went against what the Quran taught. And the idea of jihad is to make an effort or struggle. It's been translated as the internal struggle against sin, the struggle to defend the community, also an example of a holy war. So a lot of times you'll hear them say, jihad means holy war against the infidel, but it also means an internal struggle against sin and a struggle to defend the community from evil. Muslims also study the Hadith, which is the written record of Muhammad's words and actions. The Sunnah is the way Muhammad lived his life as a model for Muslims. And this also has parallels in the Christian world with Jesus, that the Christian Bible is seen as Jesus' example of how Christians should live. And the Sunnah works in the same way. It's the example Muhammad showed based on what's in the Hadith. Now, this is a huge part of the Islamic faith, the 5 pillars of Islam. These were required of all Muslims. The first is a statement of faith. And at least one time in their life, a Muslim must say, there is no God but God, or there is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is his prophet. This is the first thing. You have to accept that you believe what the Muslims believe. Now, this is also typical. When you look at Christianity, the first step to becoming a Christian is accepting Jesus Christ as personal Savior, the teachings of the Christian church, and being removed from your sin and being saved from your sin. So in this idea, with Christianity, you admit, I believe in Jesus, that he is the Son of God. In the Islamic faith, it says, I believe that there is only one God. His name is Allah, and Muhammad is his prophet. Excuse me. And that separates the Christians from the Muslims right off the bat. Because Christians don't believe that Muhammad was a prophet of God, but the Muslims do. The Muslims don't believe that Jesus was a Messiah. They believe he was a prophet. The Christians do. So, they say this when they accept Islam and in their daily prayers. A lot of times this is how they start their daily prayers. The second is prayer. They must pray 5 times a day, before sunrise, at midday, in late afternoon, right after sunset, and before going to bed. So they got to pray 5 times a day. Typically, they would point in the direction of Mecca. They pray where they are, but they try to go to a local mosque to pray as well. A lot of times, Muslims will take their lunch breaks and they'll go to a local mosque or find a location where they can go and pray at their workspace, and they'll pray there. They also pray, like I said, before sunrise, in the middle of the day, in the late afternoon, right after sunset, and before going to bed. The third is a yearly donation of charity or alms. They must pay their money to a religious official. It's paying alms for the poor, to build mosques, or to pay debt. Same thing like with a Christian paying tithes. A fourth pillar is fasting, or going without food and drink. And this is done during the holy month of Ramadan. During this time, Muslims won't eat or drink anything between dawn and sunset. So during the day, they can eat after sunset a little bit. They can eat before dawn a little bit, but not in between. and that's going to be during the holy month of Ramadan, where they will fast. The fifth pillar is the Hajj, or the pilgrimage to Mecca. All Muslims, if they're able to financially and physically, are expected to go to Mecca at least one point in their life. The Kaaba in Mecca is Islam's most sacred place. Now, the Kaaba, remember I told you that there was a number of gods worshipped at the Kaaba. Well, when Muhammad comes back, because what happens is he gets an army together, they take over in Mecca, make that the main headquarters of Islam, and they take the Kaaba, they get rid of every god that's there besides Allah, and they make it a shrine specifically to Allah. And so it's the most sacred place in Islam. And here's just an image of the 5 pillars of Islam: your faith, or your acceptance of faith, prayer, fasting, almsgiving, and the Hajj, or the pilgrimage. You're also supposed to treat people with generosity, and this is compared to Judaism, which also teaches that if people are mean to you, you've still got to be good to them. If people treat you poorly, you still have to treat them well. It's pretty typical in most religions. The Sunnah taught that it's bad to owe money. It's bad to owe someone money. They also taught that people should obey their leaders. Just a few of the beliefs. It's bad to owe money, treat people with respect, and obey the leaders. Islamic law is known as Sharia law. In a system of law based on Islamic sources and human reason, it judges the rightness of actions on an individual or community might take. Islamic beliefs make no difference between religious and daily life, so it affects all aspects of Muslim life. It's the reason why you're going to see a lot of different Muslim countries that are going to be ran by the Islamic faith as well as the Islamic government. You're going to see they're going to have a theocracy, which is a government established about a specific religion. Sharia sets rewards for good behavior and punishments for crime. Most Muslim countries blend Islamic law with other legal systems to govern the people. It's not a set law written in a book, but ideas and opinions that have changed over the course of time. And so a lot of people like combining Sharia law in with their actual law to form a law that also has an Islamic connotation to it. And that brings us to the end of section 2.